This is the video you've been waiting for. If you love Bujo, journal along with me as we get organized and inspired for the year ahead. This is my 2022 bullet journal setup. Hello, my friends. Welcome. My name is Shayda Campbell, and on this channel, we get creative together. This year has come to a close very quickly. 2022 is upon us, and that means it's time for a whole new bullet journal. If you've been journaling with me over the past few years, I think this is my 5th year of journaling, then you know I love some illustrated spreads, a little bit minimal, a little bit floral, and always a touch of whimsy. Last year I had a very loose theme. I was inspired by kind of magic and tarot illustrations. This year I want to kind of get back to what I was doing in 2020, where we followed the monthly birth flowers. I always felt a bit guilty that those monthly birth flowers are very Northern Hemisphere specific. So this year my journal theme is flowers of the world, and I can't wait to hear what flowers you would like me to cover each month. Where are you from? What is the flower of that country or your province? Or what is your favorite wildflower? Anything. I want to paint and draw more tropical flowers as well as all of our usual favorites. So leave a comment below. Let me know what you'd like to see. But for now, let's get into the bulk of our 2022 setup. I'm gonna keep this short because this is always a long video. I remember last year I was pregnant and filming this was like a marathon. This year Sully will be napping, or he'll be on me, or he'll be in the playpen, but I think it's actually gonna be easier than when I was pregnant. So if you are starting a bullet journal for the very first time, don't have a fear in the world. This is supposed to be fun. I'm gonna film this over the course of 2 days, but you, luckily, do not have to get yours set up in 2 days. You can take all of December and January and beyond to get your journal started. And I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that. And remember, through all of this, your journal should be what you want it to be. Don't have a job? You can catalog movies that you want to watch, or books that you want to read, workout routines you want to try, foods you want to eat, I don't know. Just remember, your journal should reflect you. So let's get started. If you are new to bullet journaling, we're going to start with a quick chat about supplies. Of course, you will need a notebook, and I recommend getting a notebook with dot grid pages because the dot grid is not as interfering or loud as ruled lines or graph paper, but it does help you keep everything straight, which is amazing. I am using the A5 dot grid notebook from Archer and Olive. I love the Archer and Olive notebooks because they have bright white pages, really thick paper, there's no ghosting or bleeding. I have a link in the video description. Definitely, if you're going to purchase one, shop that link because it helps out this channel. And then other than a notebook, you need a pencil and an eraser, a couple of fine liners. I have the Mulatto black liners, which I love. I'm using a white gel pen. And this year, I'm going to incorporate color with a bit of ripped paper, maybe some washi tape, and of course, you can use markers or brush pens if you like. But all in all, we're talking very minimal supplies, stuff that you can pick up without spending a lot of money. And this is a hobby that's gonna, I hope, bring you a lot of joy and organizational pleasure all year long. So with that said, let us begin with the very first spread on our very first page. This is what I refer to as my nameplate page, and it's a great thing to put on that first page of the journal that doesn't quite lie flat. So as I said, I'm going to be using paper in my journal this year, and I have this wonderful blackout paper, very, very dark black, and I just cut it in this funny little rounded square, and I'm going to just glue it in. So it almost looks, when you round those edges, like you've painted in this little funny area, but it's just a bit of paper. And then I'm drawing 2 curving lines using pencil. And from there, we'll create a very simple nameplate page using my white gel pen. This is my favorite gel pen. Remember, all the supplies are linked in the video description. And I started with those 2 curving lines. And then all I do is draw some little leaves and berries while also adding additional branches. This is a really fun little illustration to work out because you can just keep adding more branches, adding more leaves, adding more berries, and it kind of goes along, and it's very easy and achievable, very hard to mess up. You want to have the branches going in opposite directions, and they create this really beautiful little border, leaving a nice large area in the center where you can place your name, where I'm going to write Shayda's journal. This is a very simple, yet I think beautiful page, and I love that because it's the start of the journal and it represents what my journal will be this year. Minimal, floral, simple, a little bit of ripped paper, lots of black and white. Let's just keep moving on, and I'm sure you will see for yourself. Next is our 2022 cover page. Not everybody loves illustrations in their journal, but that's what mine is all about, and I love creating a yearly and monthly cover pages. I'm incorporating lots of Dutch doors this year, and the cover page is no different. So I've marked that 7 or 8 squares in where I will cut away. And then I'm doing a Flowers of the World theme. So I'm going to trace a little circle here to be my earth or my globe. And I am going to try and sketch out the continents. This was a little bit tricky for me, but just remember, they don't need to look perfect. Just need to hint at the idea of Africa or the Americas and kind of do these messy lines. And I might put the date on the globe, I'm not sure. But what I do know is I want to have all these flowers bursting up from the earth. And so I start my illustration as usual with a guide. I'm placing circles that will show me where the flowers will sit. Large circle, large flower, smaller circles, smaller flowers, you get it. And then we're going to sketch in a bunch of different florals. I'm starting with a daisy. I read that daisies grow almost everywhere on the planet where flowers grow, so that's a perfect one. I'm also going to do a little frangipani here. We're going to do delphinium, which is a kind of like a taller flower, so that's going to give me some nice length and add something interesting to the illustration because it's not just another sort of round circular flower. I'm also going to draw a little pansy. You know, this video is already going to be enormous, which I love, but I can't really get into the nitty-gritty of all the floral illustration. But fear not, because my channel is jam-packed with videos on how to draw just about every flower you can imagine. So make sure to visit my channel homepage where you'll find a floral illustration playlist and lots more videos. Or if you're looking for a specific flower, use my name as the great search term it is and just Google or YouTube search Shayda Campbell rose, Shayda Campbell daisy, etc. With most of my flowers filled in, I'm also adding large leaves and small leaves, and then I did some tiny little like circular flowers that are sort of funny and cute. You want to have some size variation, so some tiny leaves and tiny flowers, larger leaves, larger flowers. You get the idea. All of that makes for a really cohesive and interesting illustration. Once you're happy with your floral sketch, we're going to grab a fine liner. I am using the Mulatto Black Liner 05, so a sort of a larger nib. That nib size, it really allows you a lot of precision. A smaller nib, you're going to get tiny, super fine lines. A larger nib, you're going to get a little bit more weight. And I think for this illustration, especially for the contour drawing, which is the outline, I want a good weighty line that's going to, jump off the page and give me the bold cover page that I crave this year. So if you're following along, we're going to go over the entire sketch with our fine liner to complete the contour drawing. Once you've completed that, it's a good idea to erase all of those pencil lines. It just shows you where you might have a little gap where you want to place another small flower or leaf. Once the floral contour drawing is complete, we're going to give a little more attention to the earth. I'm going to be really honest with you though, I didn't love where this part of the illustration ended up, so you're going to see me create it and then fix it. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the creation because I don't want you to follow along with this. I didn't love the end result, but what I was doing was kind of putting the date in the center and drawing my messy continents and went over the numbers with my fine liner and then filled everything in using a Tombow brush pen and just obviously doing all the water on the earth black. I don't think it looks terrible at this point, but it looks a little unbalanced simply because the earth is so dark and it kind of takes away from the beautiful florals. It's just not what I wanted. So I can fix it. There's lots of ways to fix stuff in your journal without tearing the page out. Stay tuned for that. The first thing I decided to do though was add my shading to the floral portion. So I'm using a smaller fine liner now, like an 01 or an 02, and just adding lots of line shading. It really brings out the depth and drama of those flowers. And I have a video all about line shading with pen, and I'm going to link that in the video description as well. With that done, let's talk about the earth again. As I mentioned, I feel it looks a little unbalanced. If you like the way it looks right now, consider this me giving you two options of how to create the cover page. To fix this, I've cut a circle of pink paper, and that will be my earth. Then I'm going to sketch in the continents. I didn't want to do a North American centric globe, but that's the one I'm really used to drawing because I drew it a lot growing up. So that's what I'm doing. And when I shade that, I'm not going to do like dark black. I'm going to use my fine liners and just do this line shading so that it matches the drawing above the flowers a little bit better. And then I think the whole thing looks a little more balanced. We've worked in some color and I have a piece that I really like and I'm excited to share with you. I'm also moving the date, the 2022, from the earth over to the other page. And I can do that because I've cut the Dutch door already. And that makes my Dutch door a little more useful as well, doesn't it? As well as balancing the illustration. I'm doing a simple block lettering, again, bringing the line shading over to the lettering. So in that way, I've got a piece that is more cohesive and just looks a little more detailed. And the Dutch door has meaning at this point. There it is all done. I think it looks really nice and I've fixed what I didn't like, and you can always do that in your journal. Now let's flip over and work on the page below. And this is just a spot where I want to write some of my affirmations for the year. They're a little different than resolutions, a little more personal. Again, working with a bit of ripped paper, I just glue that in, and then I'm going to do like a very minimal sketch here. So in pencil, I've given myself a simple stem. Then I'll take my fine liner and just work out some tiny little flowers and buds along the length of those three stems that kind of join together. Then, of course, I use the fine liner to join them all together with these tiny little stems and branches. I can add some more flowers at this point if I think I need a couple more. And we're going to finish it off and make everything look really pretty and detailed with lots of tiny little oval-shaped leaves, or very thin, long leaves. And we'll add another branch and just make the whole thing look as balanced as possible. You can do a bit of line shading. Then, of course, we'll put our affirmations title up above. And this is quite a simple page, but I like that. It's a very personal page for myself. We can erase our pencil guide. We don't need that anymore. And there is our affirmations page, which sits tucked away below the Dutch door, all done. My 2020 cover has been a success. Let's move on. And just remember, you can always fix your mistakes without ripping out the page, although that's totally fine as well. Just popping in for a second here, friends. The video is not done. We still have a lot more spreads to cover. I wanted to remind my channel patrons that my yearly cover page is available for you to print. Being a patron is a wonderful way to support the channel. You get a lot for a little. It's only $2 US a month to get all the cover page printables. I release one every month, as well as weekly bonus content like coloring pages, worksheets, and there's an extra video every month. So head over to my Patreon page if you would like to support this YouTube channel and make these videos possible. Next up, the journal key. So bullet journaling is all about organization, and you're going to need a key to keep your notes in order. For this one, I'm keeping it simple and minimal once again, and I've outlined a very perfectly imperfect rectangle at the top of the page. Within that, I'm writing journal key, and then this little rectangle just becomes a wreath as I add lots of tiny little oval-shaped leaves, maybe a few messy little branches. You get the idea. This is really at the heart of what I'm doing this year. Simple, cute, achievable with a baby, we'll call it. Okay, let's create the key. So when I am journaling, I use these symbols to help me keep organized. First of all, a lot of journaling has to do with tasks. So this box is my task. When it has a line through it, that means the task is started. When it has a bunch of lines and it's filled in, that means my task is completed. If I put an X through it, the task has been canceled for that day. I use a heart to represent a birthday, the X is an event, and a circle is a list item. It's pretty straightforward, but let me give you a quick example of how this would work. So I have my little Post-it here, we'll just stick that in, and I'm going to use the key to do an example. So the event is I am teaching a watercolor class. So I use an X to represent the event. Within that or under that heading, I have some tasks like prep my brushes, buy paper, even just practice. So I'm using those task boxes to write out all my tasks, and then as I do them, I will fill them in accordingly. And I might have some list items under practice, like I want to practice leaves and flowers. So that's how my key works, and those symbols work within my journal and my yearly process. That's my key completed. Let's clean up all the pencil lines and move on to our next spread. Since my theme is flowers of the world, I want to create an illustration that represents that. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm using more cut paper in a pretty peachy pink, and I'm gluing it in almost so it looks like a paint splotch. Then I'm going to write flowers of the world, and I want flowers and world to take up the entire page, so I'm kind of blocking them out. And any good illustration starts with a guide. I want this to be very simple, very, very simplistic, sort of like a poster. So I'm going to make the circles where the flowers will sit quite large because I don't want to have a lot of them. So it's going to be some longer flowers, like I might do lily of the valley, and a few big round ones. With my guide done, I'll start my sketch. And the first flower I'm sketching is from Australia, and this is myrtle wattle, I believe. It's sort of like a yellow flower with long leaves and these funny, perfectly round yellow blossoms. I'm going to include lily of the valley, a very simple drawing of it, kind of to represent Europe. From Ghana, I am drawing the impala lily. So I started with an X and then did these very simple petals. Since there's daisies almost everywhere on the planet, we'll draw a daisy. And from Mexico, the dahlia, which can be a lot of petals, but again, give yourself a guide. You saw me draw a bunch of circles, and then I use those to draw layers and layers of messy petals. From Canada, I'm going to draw a trillium since I grew up in Ontario, and I just need a big, different sort of flower, and it has 3 petals only, which is kind of cool. Okay, guide is done, sketch is done. Let's grab a nice big brush pen like a Tombow, and we are going to complete our graphic illustration. So you're going to want like a marker for this. First of all, I'm going over my simple print, Flowers of the World, just keeping it nice and thick and very poster-esque. I want it to just look really graphic, and I don't want this to get too detailed, which I sometimes struggle with. I like adding lots of shading. This illustration is not that. So I'm going to use the other side of that Tombow brush pen, just the nice little marker tip that is on the other head, and we are going to go over the entire contour drawing, not adding a lot of line shading. Oh, I forgot, I did a little sakura, a little cherry blossom there there from Japan as well. So obviously I have not represented a ton of places, but I've done a bit of a little global family here with the myrtle wattle, the impala lily, daisy, lily of the valley, dahlia, blah, trillium, and a cherry blossom. When the contour drawing is done, what we need to do is make this even more graphic, and we're going to do that by coloring all the leaves in black. That's going to help show what is a flower and what is a leaf and kind of differentiate, but it's also going to help with the really graphic nature of the illustration and kind of make it pop. So I am just adding some leaves, some stems, coloring everything in, and I think it's looking really good. You can add just a tiny bit of line shading if you like, maybe to some of those circles to make them look a little more spherical, those little blossoms. I added the outline for the impala lily because it has that very dark red perimeter, and I am adding some detail to my dahlia. Okay, the Flowers of the World illustration I think looks really cool. It came out just the way I pictured in my head. And we have a flower from Australia, Ghana, Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe. I know Europe's not a country, and worldwide, Earth. The daisy is just for Earth. So let me know in the comments, what flower do you want to see? Where are you from? What's your favorite flower? Where is it from? I can't wait to read your requests. Next up, I have another cutaway or Dutch door type page, and this is all about my resolutions for 2022. I like tracking stuff like this and just writing down affirmations and resolutions and that kind of thing. So we are creating a window page, and I've drawn a square on the exact same spot on page above and below, and then I've also given myself a nice border on the top page. This is a very simple design, it's very achievable, and it's gonna look awesome. Good bang for your buck, as I often say. So as you might have guessed, what we are doing now that we have all of the layout done is we're gonna take a fine liner, I believe I'm using an 03 or an 04 nib, and we are just filling in that entire area with tons of tiny little floral doodles. You can draw leaves, flowers, a bit of both, or just leaves if you're more comfortable, or just flowers. And we just have to keep filling in, making sure to go right up to the edges so that when you erase the pencil, you have that nice clean border. This should be enjoyable, relaxing, the kind of meditative art doodle practice that you get lost in. If you mess up one flower, do not worry about it. You're never going to notice it when the piece is done. Okay, mine is pretty much all filled in. At this point, I'm kind of just slowing down, taking a step back. Is there anywhere else that looks a little unbalanced? But once you're happy with it, you can cut out that window. Again, add some more little leaves and berries if there's an empty spot. And that is our window page looking really good. Now we just need to write my resolutions 2022 or something of that sort in the box here that you've laid out. And then we'll actually be able to erase that little square, and that title will sit in the center of that page looking really pretty on its own. And what I'm going to do on this page is just create a simple floral illustration that again stands on its own and looks nice just as is. I've created a simple contour drawing that is really nothing more than two flowers with two different sizes of leaves. Now I'm taking a smaller fine liner and I'm adding all that wonderful depth and contrast by shading the leaves. I'm making everything that would be green quite dark while leaving the flowers lighter. I'm adding line shading to those petals, and then I just added a bunch of tiny leaves to make it look detailed and pretty. Now we have this wonderful window page for our list of resolutions, but we also have a standalone page underneath with a floral illustration as well as the list. Every year my resolution is to knit a sweater, and in 2021 I actually did it. A sweater for me, a couple sweaters for Sully. So this year my resolution is sweaters for the whole family, matching of course. Let's move on to our next spread, the year at a glance. I'm going to do another cutaway here. So we're going to need a bunch of pages. You actually need 2 pages. You can see where I've got the grid, and then 2 pages in between, if that makes sense. You're going to see me do it. So what I've done on the first page, which is the back of my resolutions, is I've laid out a grid of squares, and the squares are 8 by 7, 8 long by 7 wide, so they, have 7 days of the week, and then we need 8 squares in order to give us our month title, our days of the week, and then 6 squares below. And then over here on the 4th page, I've done the same thing for the other 6 months, leaving those 2 pages in between them, and that's going to be my kind of fun floral cutaway. So I'm really amping up my year at a glance this year. The year at a glance, if you're wondering, is just a place where you can have all of the calendars so that you don't have to go to your phone to figure out what day does March start on or something like that. That way your bullet journal is really contained and you can see what's coming up. You might also include a future log in this section where you're going to write monthly goals or things you want to get done in those months. I am just leaving mine at simple calendar pages so that I basically have a contained journal that I can refer to. So there are my very basic calendars. I hate writing those out. The way I hold the pen, it's very tricky to do. And I have this wonderful margin in the center. And then I have these 2 pages, which we are going to now flip those open. And I'm going to do this wonderful illustration with tropical flowers like hibiscus and protea. And I will make this cutaway illustration to decorate the year at a glance. Of course, I start with my guide. So I've outlined where the flowers will sit. Now to draw the protea, I continue that guide by dividing the circle using curving lines. Then that shows me where I'll place the layers of petals. And I'm just drawing these long, messy petals. They do not have to be the perfect shape. I'll do another one up here, divide it with curving lines, do layers and layers of petals. Then for the hibiscus, we'll do 5 overlapping petals with that long stamen in the center. My quick basic rundown of those 2 tropical flowers. There's what my illustration looks like when it's completed. I've got some hibiscus running through the center, 2 large protea, and then I just did kind of like some small 4-petal flowers to act as just more detail in the illustration. I am using a fine liner to go over the entire contour drawing. I just wanted to kind of show how I am drawing that stamen. It's a line with a bunch of little oval shapes right at the top, and I draw it coming right out of the center of the flower. It looks a little weird when you first draw the contour drawing, but we are going to add a whole lot of line shading to this illustration and make a very dramatic drawing. So those hibiscus, which are very concave, they really come together when you add the shading. All right, let's get this done. We're going to go over the entire drawing using fine liner. Are you with me? Let's do it. When that drawing is done, I like to get rid of all the pencil marks. You can really see what you're working with, and it's gonna look so good when I do the cutaway. But let's leave that for a second. First thing is first, I want to add a lot of line shading. Not only is line shading going to add all the drama that I'm seeking, but for a concave flower like hibiscus, it's really necessary, I think. Now you can see I put a lot of dark lines right in the center. I'll be honest, right off the bat, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Like, I'm gonna have to rip these pages out. That looks so weird. But as you continue to build and shade, it will all come together, I promise you. So go really dark in the center of those hibiscus flowers. When you do line shading, you're kind of following the shape of the petal that you're working on. So for the protea, I have these curving petals going upwards, so all my lines are kind of gently curved going up. For the hibiscus, I have these larger lines going out, following the shape of each large, wide petal. I'm also adding lots of contrast by making sure that all of the leaves and stems, or basically anything that is green, is a very dark black, and that again helps differentiate between what is leaf and what is flower. But I still add lots of line shading to the flower petals, of course. It helps give them their shape and add that depth. And you can see now those hibiscus centers don't look quite so dark and crazy. Everything is coming together, and this illustration is really popping off the page. To complete the illustration, I am adding just some leaves with no shading to add a bit of relief, and then I will use my white gel pen and we will add a bit of a white line to the stamen at the center of the hibiscus. Okay, she's erased, we got rid of our pencil, and she's cut out, and it looks so good. This is the most fanciest year at a glance that I've ever done. Once you cut it out, you might want to fill in some of the areas that are blank with some more leaves or flowers, or it looks fine blank as well. We're down to just the last finishing touches. I want to write my 2022 year at a glance across the bottom of the spread. Using a larger nib fine liner for the text is always nice. And then we need to, I think, just add a little bit of brush pen or marker to the days of the week, just to give some division to the calendar portion of this spread. That's all, just a little bit of warm gray, and that is my 2022 year at a glance, all done. Every year, I like to track my personal and professional goals. So that is what our next spread is going to cover. This again is going to take a couple pages because we're doing a cutaway. So you'll actually need 3 pages just like I have here. And we're going to work on the second page and write goals right across the bottom, maybe even going on to the other side. I'm going to use a brush pen to go over it because I do want a very bold title, and I'm just using a gray Tombow for this. So what I want to do is create like a nice thick brush pen lettering. If you kind of want to achieve that brush pen faux calligraphy look, remember to thicken the letters on the downstroke and keep them thinner when your hand is moving up towards the top of the page. Now I've cut that out. As I said, I want to do another cutaway page here, and I think it looks cute, but it could look even more dramatic if we added a little bit of black paper. So I am quickly tracing the shape, gluing it on, and now I have this dramatic black shadow for my goals. And I have a wonderful 2-page spread with just that little section in between to kind of zhuzh it up a bit. If you are the type of person that doesn't like to cut your journal pages, whew, you are going to hate this this yearly setup, and I feel that. I get that it's a little scary, but I think once you get over the hump, it's like, oh, I can cut my own journal up. It's cool. Or you can always do some folded page Dutch doors and stuff like that. As you can see, I'm using the 2 pages to write out some of my goal headings. And then I want to add just a little color here. So for this colored illustration, you don't need the exact same colors as me, but you need 2 shades of brown to do the stamen at the center of the daisies. We're going to draw daisies because this flower grows everywhere on the planet that flowers grow, almost everywhere. And I am also using a couple shades of gray. So all you need are 2 different colors of brown to make those stamens, and then we'll use a couple colors of gray for the daisy petals and leaves. So starting with the light brown for the center, adding some darker brown dots, then we're using a light gray to draw in all these little petals and flowers, and I've done a bunch of different sizes. From there, we're going to use 2 more shades of gray, although you could use any 2 colors for this, like you could use a light green and a dark green, or a light blue and a dark blue. Get creative, use the color palette that speaks to you. But I'm using the lighter of the 2 grays, and I'm drawing in all these stems and large petals. Then I'll add a little bit of detail with the darker gray. I'm going to get a lot of questions about these markers. They are Canadian. They are from my favorite Canadian art store, Desir's, and they're the store brand. So unfortunately, they're a little bit hard to find online. But as I said, just pick 2 colors that you like. This is a really simple illustration. And the nice thing is you don't need to have the same colors as I do to really make it pop. So you're going to frame these white flowers with lots of leaves and stems, and all of a sudden those white daisies that looked a little plain are really going to pop off the page. I'm placing some below the Dutch door or the cutaway and some above. And then you're going to take the darker color, whatever it is, whether it's gray or a darker green, and we're just going to add some details to those stems and leaves. That's about it. I did add a little bit more detail on the petals using the light gray, and there she is, my goals page, almost complete. All we need to do now is place a few more goal headers on the left side. So your goals could be broken down into as many headers as you like, whether it's work, children, lifestyle, health, could be your fitness, whatever speaks to you. I know I tend to use the same headers every year, and I love seeing at the end of the year if I've completed my goals. I'm going to complete this spread with a little kind of secret area tucked away on the back of the cutaway page. Of course, it's black, so I'm just using my white gel pen to do like a little simple leafy illustration. And then I'm actually just going to title it Notes to Self. And this is a little place where I can tuck away some personal notes to motivate me, maybe some affirmations, and help me achieve those goals. My journal is all about creating a space that inspires and motivates and calms me. And creating it is part of that calming and inspiring process. Okay, I am going to end by sharing a little flip through of my journal here. Now, I do want to say there are going to be trackers, yearly trackers, and they will be included in the January setup video, which comes out on Friday. So look for that to help you complete your January setup and some more trackers. But I've got a nice nameplate page. I have my yearly cover page with the flowers of the world and the affirmations tucked away below just for me. We have our journal key, of course, which is always useful, as well as our flowers of the world graphic illustration. From there, we have a window page showcasing the 2022 resolutions. The whole list stands alone as a beautiful page beneath. Flipping over, I have my year at a glance decorated with this cutaway page of hibiscus and protea, all these tropical plants. And I've finished up with my yearly goals page, another cutaway with my note to self tucked down below, and a little bit of color with my daisy illustrations. If you're a channel patron, don't forget to head over to Patreon where you can print my yearly cover page. Okay, well, my journal is set up, and I just wanted to say thank you for being here and for journaling along with me. Friendly reminder, you don't have to get this all done at once. You can miss a week, you can miss a spread. It's your journal. Don't let it be a cause of stress to you. It should be your creative me time that refreshes you, not stresses you. I should put that on a t-shirt. Just kidding. Have a wonderful season. Have a wonderful new year. And don't forget to look for my January plan with me where we do the full January setup coming out later this week.